Oh crap, what did I just do? Alright. What's up guys? We're about to get started here. But I broke something. Broke the overlay. Wow. Fix that real quick. Good thing I preview before I go live. There we go. Alright. Get the all games feed going. I think that covers everything. Let's see. One more thing I want to put it before I forget. One more thing. All right. They're updated. Gotta make sure I got all my stuff in the right place. Test. Just the mic a little bit. Get comfy. Yeah, I know I'm running a little late. I don't know where Oolong is. I don't think he's gonna make it today. Connect to all games. Alright, we're connected on all games. What's up, guys? Hope all is well. I'm about to get the music going here. Let's see, sound levels look good. I feel like I'm not close enough to the mic. Gotta be all up in it. Ooh. Getting comfortable today. I don't know what it is. You ever have those days where you're just a little restless? We had too much coffee. I don't know. Who knows? Alright. Stream is going. We're recording. We're on all games. Bada bing, bada boom. Let's do this.
You are listening to an All Games Radio Network broadcast of allgames.com.
Hi, this is Normie from Knuckleballer Radio and Zombie Cast, and you're listening to one of my favorite shows on the Geeky Antics Network. Don't forget to check out the rest of the gang over at geekyantics.net. Warning, there might be rants and food ahead and possibly inappropriate behavior. Don't tell anybody though.
What's up, guys? Yomar here, aka Yogizilla. I just have a real quick call to action today. If you want to support the Geeky Antics Network, it's a really simple thing you could do. We give you a few links, and all you gotta do is click on them, share them, like them. You do all the social media stuff. Ideally, buy something, but it's not required of you. Of course, this is just a way to help our sponsors out and help us pay our bills. And we just humbly ask that you share these links as much as you can. No pressure, but we would greatly appreciate it. I mean, we get it. Lots of people don't have money these days. Disposable income, what is that? So donating is not always a thing. But clicking links and sharing stuff on social media, I think everybody could do that. So the links are very simple. They all start with geekyantics.net/whatever, right? So one is geekyantics.net/shiny prints. The other one is geekyantics.net/weddings. And then we have geekyantics.net/Martin Septic. And if you just share those and tell some friends, check them out. See what's out over there. And if you like what you see, definitely spread the word. I'm sure you know at least 5 people that might be at least mildly interested. We'd greatly appreciate it. Thanks so much, guys.
You're about to listen to the Timey Wimey Tea Time Podcast, a geekyantics.net and allgames.com production. Find out what everyone's talking about. The Doctor, of course. Doctor Who? Exactly, that Doctor. Join us live at www.twitch.tv/geekyantics. That's GEEKYANTICS. Hang out with us, ask questions, laugh, and have at it. We can't wait to hear what's on your minds and hearts.
Tiny Whiny Tea Time.
Greetings and welcome to Timey Wimey Tea Time, where friends gather to talk about all things Doctor Who, sci-fi, fantasy, zombies, creativity, and geekdom as a whole. But before we get into the fun, yeah, I'm switching it up. Being a little more energetic. I don't know, I'm really hyper today, which is good because I've gone back to our previous episodes and I'm like, energy levels a little lacking. But actually, I'm a little well rested, which is rare for me. Yeah, that's a first. It's been a while. But folks, if you're new, let me introduce myself. All right, let me introduce myself. This is the part where we do the introduction. This is our spiel. Ready? I'm Yomo Lopez, known throughout the interwebs and sometimes the Whoverse as Yogizilla. Friends IRL call me Yogi. Now, if it's not scripted, because it is. Our good friend Stan Farina, he put this together. He's an author, friend, and former co-host of Timey Wimey Tea Time. So this is how he describes me, and this is all true. Well, I like to think it's true. He would describe me as the following, or this is what he would have me say. I'm a gamer. I'm a dreamer. An author of silliness. A disgruntled techie, oh boy, that's true. A wild-eyed entrepreneur. And a fistful of happy emoticons and sunshine. I ride into the battle upon a glittering My Little Pony. Out of my mouth come laughing swords of peppermint and ginger. But above all, that's all fine and dandy, right? But I feel the most important takeaway here is that I hope that we can become friends, or at least associates, right? That's good. Buddies, pals. There's a progression of things, right? Because we're gonna embark upon a journey through time and space. The human condition, and merriment/bantering. And this is what we do here on Tea Time. So, welcome, new and old friends alike. Today is February 6th. That's the feta zapatos. That's how they talk Spanish in Spain. They put th and everything. Anyway, little sidebar there. Today is February 6th, 2016. This is episode 45 of TWTT. I'm checking the All Games chat to see if I'm missing anything. I'm checking the Twitch chat, and we are streaming live to those platforms. So today we're actually continuing our off-season trend of having more cohesive themes. So we're going to have, in the Doctor Who off-season, we're going to have a lot more, and also the Walking Dead off-season, especially. Those kind of our main fandoms we talk about here, along with a little anime here and there. But we're gonna have more cohesive themes, more underlying themes. And for this tea time session, we'll be discussing immersion and innovation in video games. So what makes a game immersive? What is immersion? What makes a game sticky? Is it the same thing as immersion? You know, do they go hand in hand? Hmm? We'll explore these topics and more from a creator's perspective and a gamer's perspective alike. Now, those things go hand in hand because a lot of creators are gamers and a lot of gamers are creatives, but not necessarily always the case. It's not necessarily always the case. Um, but before we get into any more banter, let's look at our intergalactic star map. And these are the adventures and ponderings that await you. The ponderings that await you. The ponderings. Ponderings. Is that really a word? I don't know. We're going to say it is because Amy Pond. Alright? We'll use that vernacular. The more appropriate word would probably be musings. But these are the adventures and ponderings that await you. For this wonderful timey-wimey Tita. I don't know what's wrong with me today. I'm like weird. So hopefully I'm entertaining, you know? Bring a little hype today. Because no long. It's just me. You're stuck with me, I'm sorry. Or you're welcome. I don't know, depending how you look at it. So before we go deeper, we got news, we got housekeeping, and one of the major announcements is about the social dozen. What's the social dozen? Well, stay tuned. Well, you'll find out in a few minutes. Who knew? We're gonna do the Who Knew segment before we jump into the real meat and potatoes of the show. And then Who Knew? We got some Doctor Who news this time, and video game stuff. Video games. Get your video games right here. I don't know. I tried. Creative Corner. We're going to talk about immersive game mechanics and storytelling, you know, an overall thing about immersion. And we're probably going to, maybe we'll make this as a series, because every time I start really getting into it, I really should just write an article about it. I go into different directions. I'm like, ooh, what's immersion? And why should people care? And why should we be aware of this? Why is it important for game design? Why is it important for gamers? Oh, you know, and I think there's a lot of useful insight there. There's tons of insights to really take in, and I go in every other direction, as you can tell by how I kind of ad-lib and yeah, tangents. Woohoo! And then in the gaming verse, we're gonna skip straight to the gaming verse. So we can actually talk some video games like deeper than we have the past few weeks. We're gonna talk about innovative, impactful, and inspirational games. Impactful. I like the sound of impactful. Yeah, get just games that have made an impression on me and people that I know, people that can't join us right now, but that would probably like to, you know, be here. Matter of fact, I'm gonna message Merg, and because he said he wants to do some podcasting with me, and we'll see. I'm gonna tell him it's a clean show, no cussing. I'm going to talk. We're gonna talk immersion in video games and storytelling, amongst other things. Boom, and you get to typing. This is happening live. I should have thought about this sooner. So, he's probably sleeping in now because it is the weekend. But hey, now I made the effort. Now he needs to make the effort. The ball is in his court. That's right, Mergalicious. I put you out there live and on the air. All right, and so yeah, let's go right into it before we go deeper. So at the top of the show, like we like to do a little housekeeping, and we'll always share ways how you can support the show, join our community, keep the conversation going, etc., etc. Major announcements will be featured here as well, including new Geeky Antics network projects and collaborations. Why am I forgetting the S then? I don't know. I'm too hyper. Stop it. Conversation with stuff. This is how you know you're going over the edge, the brink of madness. Anywho, the first major announcement I want to make sure I put out here before anything. It's very important. We have a new show. It's not officially a Geeky Antics show yet. I would like to. It will be syndicated on Geeky Antics. I would like it to be one of our flagship shows, but I think Sean and gang want to get it on all games as a show there. But it will be featured on Geeky Antics, and that show is The Social Dozen. It's here. We have one episode in the bank, and yours truly is managing the feed. So if we're late on getting stuff out there, then you can blame me. There you go. What's the social dozen? Basically, the premise of the show is we have a baker's dozen, 13 hosts, and we talk about what's trending on social media. We talk about things going on in our lives. Just social stuff. It's kind of like Knuckleballer Radio, but we'll have rotating hosts. 4 out of 13 possible hosts every week. So it's a proverbial cornucopia of discussions and musings. I'm excited about it. And it's a good concept. I think having rotating hosts is gonna keep it fresh, gonna keep us on our toes. So stay tuned. It's coming. In the meantime, leave us voicemail or text us 201-762-4256. Again, 201-762-4256. You could leave voicemail or text, SMS on there. And let us know what's on your mind, what you think is hot and what's not. For Geeky Antics, we have our new voicemail line and SMS line. That hotline is 646-801-2149. Again, 646-801-2149. And if you're outside of the States, just add a 011 to the, that's the prefix for calling internationally to the U.S. You can visit us at facebook.com/Geeky Antics or email us. Yes, you can email us a short MP3 to mail@geekyantics.net, or for this show, TWTT@geekyantics.net. Now, Whovians, call to action for you. Whovians, represent, You gotta represent. Leave us iTunes reviews, I was gonna say an iTunes review, but leave multiple ones. Have your friends leave them too. Help us be our brand ambassador. We know it's a cumbersome platform. Trust me. You gotta switch regions in order to view the different reviews, and sometimes you have to switch regions to leave a review for a show. And I don't know why Apple decided this was good design logic, but it's still the biggest marketplace, and we rarely push it, so we're pushing it now. Because, it's a goal to have. Of course, we are on YouTube, so that's a thing. YouTube.com/Geeky Antics. But as far as the podcast side, the audio feed goes, iTunes is the biggest one. You just can't ignore it. You can't ignore it, no matter how you feel about Apple. Truth be told, the easiest way, and I hate saying this, is if you want to leave reviews, you listen to a lot of podcasts, and you want to leave a lot of reviews and do it easily, don't use a tablet, don't use an Apple phone. Just install the software on your PC or Mac. It's the easiest way that I found, because the website, terrible bad. We'd appreciate it, though, and we will return the love if you're a podcaster as well. So, reciprocation, it has its place. And when I personally leave iTunes reviews or any reviews or comments, I tend to make them meaty. I don't leave any like, "Oh, good job, guys," or "Awesome." I like to put some real thought behind it, and I like it to be authentic. Because generic you have all these generic comments, and it's just like, all right, where did you get the bots? Who did you pay to leave comments? So we'll appreciate all kind of comments, but if you leave real heartfelt, review or comment anywhere, we'll definitely acknowledge that and maybe even read it, on air. So yeah. Steam Gift Exchange still going on. If you go to steamcommunity.com/groups/horseplay, you could be part of the Geeky Antics Steam community, and you may get some codes or games sent to you, or there may be some game codes dropped in the forums there, or you might do it on Facebook. You gotta plug in. You gotta be in it to win it. Now, folks, you can listen to us live every other Saturday, usually, at allgames.com/live and twitch.tv/Geeky Antics. So the foremost is audio feed, and the latter is a video feed. Of course, you get the audio with the latter as well. So it depends what you like. There is no webcam component to this as of now. But if you guys ask for it, maybe I'll start doing webcam. For this, I like to use all the video space for news tickers and show notes and slideshows and other things like that. Because the slideshows kind of give you an idea of some of the things we discussed in the past, or we might discuss today. Some of the things that we are passionate about, stuff like that, and they make for good talking points. So kind of hard to get them when you have a video overlay, because then a lot of it's taken up by the video. That's just my thoughts. And then just having one webcam, I don't know. If I had a consistent co-host, maybe I'd do a consistent webcam video. We shall see. Because we are in the process of retooling the show. But anyway, I'm thinking out loud. I just want to say a little cautionary, blurb out there. Definitely check out the shows on our respective networks. All Games Radio Network and Geeky Antics Network Global. Or just call it Geeky Antics Network for short. It rolls off the tongue easier. I just like the Geeky Antics Network Global because one, it's campy and it's kind of, we don't take ourselves too seriously, and also it spells out the acronym GANG. The Gang. That's where it comes from. There you go. Now you know, and knowing is half the battle. But I do want to say that the shows on our respective networks may not be your cup of tea. A lot of them are not safe for work and certainly not safe for kids. So keep that in mind. And speaking of All Games, we recently did a fun crossover with SG of R9Cast over on our network's flagship show, Horseplay Live, and our network, me being Geeky Antics. And the topic was actually innovation in video games, which we're going to keep going today from a different angle, of course. SG really got our creative juices going. It was clear in the Twitch chat that our fellow gamers are just desperate for change, and we're just kind of tired of all this regurgitated junk, that's really what they're doing, is just making last year's game a little prettier and saying, hey, look, it's a brand new game. No, it's not. It's the same game, just with a facelift. Yeah. I gotta be careful, because when I get into those passionate discussions, I might end up cussing, and we keep the show clean. We keep it family friendly. Or at least try to. Yeah, I don't think we've ever messed up. We only had a few bleeps. We had to actually bleep it out. Other than that, yep. We're upholding that iTunes G rating or whatever they call it. Family friendly, I don't know. By the way, folks, we're also teamed up with the Tangent Bound Network, Musings of a Geek Network, as well as AM Audio Media. So give them a Google Bing search and check out what they have. Like, comment, share, +1, subscribe. There's so many easy opportunities to show some love without spending a single dime. These things take minutes, a few minutes to get done, and it goes such a long way. I mean, whenever I do my consulting work and I have clients that are like, oh, we don't get any comments, we don't get any likes, I tell them, hey, don't overvalue those things. They are important metrics, but the truth is that unless these opportunities fall on people's laps, a lot of folks won't take that extra step. Because we're kind of like, I think the major problem is it's not even that the content's not compelling enough. So don't take it personally if people are not leaving comments or subscribing or liking or whatever. There's a lot of lurking, and the reason for it is we have so much content to consume that taking these quick opportunities takes us away from grinding through all the content. That's kind of what happens. For me, what I'm learning to do is just scaling more and more. I'm scaling back on a lot of these things that overwhelm me. I'm down to a handful of podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis. There's a few that I listen to here and there. That's one of my main things. I'm more into podcasts than I am video, because I could do that, and I had to be fully engaged with it. I could be working on stuff, preparing for a podcast myself, doing some video editing, writing, game design, whatever, or playing a video game while listening to podcasts. Video, not so much, but I'll watch some YouTube and some Twitch too. But anyway, before I go off on a tangent, it's tough, and I get it. But take the little time out, because that stuff does mean a lot to people. No matter what we say, it makes us happen when we get comments and we get tweets and all that stuff. And I want to give some extra special love to Vince Martin for being such an awesome, fantastic, brilliant sponsor and client. Show him some love on Facebook and on the following links: MartinSepticTanksGA.com and geekyantics.net/Martin Septic. And keep in mind, this is the Martin Septic Services, or Martin Septic Service of Georgia, Middle Georgia, not Alabama or any other thing that may come up in search. And of course, you can find all the links to our sponsors, affiliates, partners, etc., our heroes, people to help us keep the lights on and grow. Those links are all over at geekyantics.net/sponsors. I keep changing my voice, and I'm being silly. Don't mind me. We're also exploring some new affiliate offers. Stay tuned for Green Geeks. I need to follow up with them. It's been really busy for me, but they're working on a deal where if people need hosting, anytime people sign up with Green Geeks, not only will they help out the environment, but they'll support a cool company, and they'll help us out. We'll get commissions out of it. So if you're looking for hosting, let me know, and then I'll set this up. I'll broker the deal, so to speak. We'll have an affiliate link more than likely over at Geeky Antics. I'm gonna say Greeky. No, that's a whole other site. geekyantics.net/Green Geeks. And that covers all the plugs and whatnot. So let's go. Let's get into the news in Who Knew? Who Knew? This is our headlines and blurbs, grabbed from the Whovian spaces and the overall geeky places. Hey, that works. I should change that this week. Whovian spaces and overall geeky places. Oh, I like that. Whovian spaces and overall geeky places. That's catchy. I just came up with that. Anyway, XCOM 2 is out. Who is playing it? Let me know if you're playing it. I am curious. I would like to know. It's funny because they just had a bunch of deals on XCOM, Enemy Unknown, and Enemy Within, and now XCOM 2 is out. It came out yesterday, February 5th. Man, I'm so tempted. But I know if I get it now, not only is money tight, and I know it sounds crazy, but I got a family to feed and a lot of investments to make into Geeky Antics and different initiatives, business interests and so forth. So I have to be very frugal with my spending. Those of you that are parents understand, especially if you're bootstrapping a business. And XCOM is plenty of game as it is, but then there's the expansion. I need to really play that game before I jump into XCOM 2, but XCOM 2 looks so good. They really made some changes to that and made it even better, which I didn't think would be possible. It's clearly not just a regurgitated game, and the reviews say everything. So I want to hold off on it, but I would like to know who's playing it and how is the multiplayer. I'm particularly interested in that. I would like to see an XCOM game with really epic multiplayer. XCOM had good multiplayer, but I would like maybe more cooperative XCOM. Because the PvP stuff, you gotta really be in the mood for it, and I don't play enough to be good enough at it. And people just end up using the aliens with the mind control, let's be honest, because mind control is OP. But XCOM 2, that's out. If you're playing it, let me know. Tweet me at Yogizilla, at Geeky Antics. Message me on Steam, Yogizilla, Xbox Live, Yogizilla. I'm Yogizilla everywhere. YOGIZILLA. More video game stuff. Mighty Number 9 is delayed once again. And instead of providing a firm release date, all we have to go on right now is spring 2016. Yep, that's what we got. And it's a shame because this game should be a wake-up call for Capcom that's been, slapping Mega Man. We're pretty much letting the Mega Man franchise, the IP, just collect dust. But it's not. Instead, it's actually, slapping the Mega Man fans in the face, because they've been supporting it from the start. And, yep, delay after delay. But it's a smaller company. It's a new startup, and that's what happens. So we shall see what happens with that. In honor of the late David Bowie, Omicron, 1999 game from Square Enix will be free for download at the Square Enix store. And if you missed this game like a lot of us did, I know I did, it may be worth checking out. It holds up pretty well from what I've seen. And when I look at it, I just think of Bowie's most trippy work. You know, a lot of his stuff has been out there, and what comes to mind immediately is like Labyrinth or Ziggy Stardust. For me, at least, you know, it's just trippy stuff. Like it just makes you think, like, what were they thinking? But it's great. It's part of the fun. So check that out. We got some Doctor Who stuff. Oh yeah, we do. So reports suggest that Stephen Moffat's commitment with Sherlock season 4, because that is in production right now. The people are worried that that his commitment there may keep him from releasing a full Doctor Who season. The BBC has yet to comment on this, and it's been months since this news kind of surfaced. But what I'm thinking is gonna happen is that we're gonna see a mid-season break, because I think they're gonna keep the whole 12 to 13 episode season thing going. They kind of need to, especially if this is gonna be Peter Capaldi's last season. And again, why are these doctors always going for 3 seasons max? It's like this weird stigma or curse. I don't know. For more news on that, check out denofgeek.us. Good site. It's actually got some meaty stuff in there, not just clickbait like a lot of these sites out there do. What else do we have? Doctor Who. Doctor Who may be gone from Hulu and Netflix. And I haven't verified this myself, but I'm sure the BBC contract will be renewed if it hasn't already. Obviously, I don't know firsthand because I'm not really doing that much Hulu or Netflix these days, so yep. But if it isn't renewed and Amazon Prime doesn't have it, I mean, Amazon Prime to me is the best value overall for just about anything geeky. You can order stuff, get 2-day shipping. In some places you can get same-day shipping. There's Amazon Pantry, and then they got Prime Instant Video, and they got the Kindle Fire free book checkouts monthly, and 20% off game pre-orders. Man, there's so much stuff, so much value. But anyway, if Amazon Prime doesn't get it, then there's always BBC's iPlayer, whatever it's called. And if there's a will, there's a way. That's all I'm gonna say. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. You know what I mean. There's lots. I found this website that has a lot of interesting things. It's got a cool little layout too. Tile-based thumbnails and cool. Looks pretty snazzy. I like it. So it's DoctorWhoWatch.com. They're not affiliated with us. They're not associated with us. But I just thought this was a cool site. From what I kind of gleaned so far, some of the items that kind of stood out for me, these items of interest, so to speak, include the 50 best drama TV shows on Netflix, Doctor Who and the main theme of Lost, Peter Jackson teases directing Doctor Who. That would be cool. Put a little Lord of the Rings flavor in there. Alcohol on Doctor Who, a history, a kind of retrospective of sorts. Clara Oswald's 5 most pivotal moments. What are those? And Doctor Who's spin-off review, Torchwood, One Rule, which apparently is an audiobook. So Torchwood is still going, but not in TV format. Shame. These audiobooks, I tell you, if I had the disposable income to just throw money at it, I would. And sadly, the folks that put out the audio stuff, they are not very open to affiliate marketing and giving media outlets like Geeky Antics freebies, which is a shame because we have the audience to put it in front of, but I can't afford to buy all this stuff and review it myself. So they're missing out on some extra reach, but I guess they feel like they don't need it. They said it, but they said that we'll get back to us in the future when they have some opportunities for affiliate marketing and things of the sorts. Shame, because I'm a huge Doctor Who fan, and as I'm sure a lot of you are, but not that big on the community, the fan support. Shame. Anyway, let's move on here. But I'm gonna take a sip of my coffee. Not that I really need it, right? So this is Creative Corner, and in the Creative Corner, which I've debated calling the Creative Nook, but that sounds too much like a video series that we do every now and then called called Hearthstone Noob Nook. I like the word Nook. I don't know, but we'll go Creative Corner because that's 2 C's. Creative Corner. See that? Cuckoo. Caca. I don't know. CC. What's that? Consternation? Alliteration? Who knows? It's some kind of narrative device, and I can't think of what it is. We'll just say hyperbole. That's a cool word too. But that's wrong. So what you'll find here in the Creative Corner is the TWTT word of the day. You may find writing / creative prompts, inspirational quotes, introspective thoughts. And you may find creative tips, all sorts of fun stuff. So today's TWTT word of the day feeds into our biggest underlying theme for the day, which is immersion. It's brought to you by the letters I, V, G, and sometimes C. It's also brought to you by the Shark Lions Pools and Stools, SAO Full Dive Apparatus, and NotTheLastOfUs.com. That voice is terribly annoying, I know. And yes, those things are not really real, but that's part of the fun. And I had to take a jab at The Last of Us because that's kind of a fun thing that I do. Because I'm a curmudgeon. I'm sorry. So the word of the day is immersion. Immersion is a noun that means an act or an instance of immersing. State of being immersed. State of being deeply engaged or involved, i.e. or a la absorption. Baptism in which the whole body of the person is submerged in the water. Also called ingress. Astronomy term. The entrance of a heavenly body into an eclipse by another body, an occultation, or a transit. What? Of course, you compare it to immersion. It's also an adjective. Wait, immersion is an adjective? Dictionary.com, are you trolling? Concentrating on one course of instruction, subject, or project to the exclusion of all others for several days or weeks. Intensive. An immersion course in conversational French. Yeah, that is the adjective, because course is the noun and immersion describes it. Okay. I will go with that. Rogue Bishop, what did you come into? We're about to talk about the creative and game mechanics side of immersion. Right now we're kind of going through the textbook definition. So the origin of immersion, it comes from the late Middle English and the late Latin, circa 1425 to 1475. Then it stems from Latin. It stems from immersio, a dipping in. And what else do we have? It can be often confused with immersion or immersion, but it is the word immersion. This is not making sense. Well, immersion with the E, not to be confused with IMMERSION. Now that's a textbook definition, and I don't have a quote in front of me. I usually have a quote at this point, but I messed up. But what about the real life? The real life theory and the application of it. What is immersion to gamers and creatives? Let's look at today's creative conundrum. So the conundrum is that gamers want, we want games that are immersive. But what does that really mean? What does that look like? What are the things that drive that? What is immersion? What is stickiness? We keep talking about these things, but what do they really mean? What does it mean when a game has good gameplay or high replay value? Now we've touched upon these topics before, but let's dig deeper this time around. We're gonna lay down some background. And there's a great article over on the Psychology of Games website, psychologyofgames.com. It's a 2010 article titled "The Psychology of Immersion in Video Games." And I also recommend reading anything by Gabe Zickerman. Some people consider him kind of douchey, but he is the CEO of gamification Co. and one of the thought leaders in gamification, Stickiness, and the infamous Flow Zone. Let's break down some of the game theory before we tackle immersion. So I have a few kind of formulas. So replay value I kind of look at as the combination of immersion plus reward / challenge and the balance of that thereof, and freshness, more or less. There's more to it, but let's just say that. Immersion can be further broken down into customization / depth, narrative, sensory information, and overall richness, more or less. Again, it's about. We'll get more into it. But we will revisit that. Trust me. Some games are sticky, but not necessarily immersive. That is, there are games that will keep you coming back, but they don't hold your attention for long. A good example are mobile games, or games like Rocket League. I think Rocket League, a lot of people love it, but they play it like in 30-minute to an hour increments, and then they go back to other things. I don't see people. I mean, I can't see myself personally doing marathon sessions of Rocket League. Like 5-6 hours. Like I couldn't stream it on an 8-hour stream. I'd go crazy because I don't think it's immersive enough. In fact, even though I'm playing, I'm really into it. I don't feel really immersed in it. And why is that? We'll get into that. So the way I see it, immersive games have you actively engaged. That's the definition that I really liked from Dictionary.com. What did it say? It said, state of being deeply engaged or involved. You're absorbed, you're immersed in the process, in the experience. The flip side of that, something that's not immersive, a game that's not immersive, is something that's enjoyed passively. You're not actively enjoying it. You're taking frequent breaks. You're multitasking. You're interacting with your chat, or you're just playing on autopilot. And what's interesting about that is, if you're playing a truly immersive game, it's really hard to stream it because chances are you're ignoring your chat. Now, if the chat doesn't mind, then that's cool. But you might have to pause the game to interact with the chat, and that might disrupt the immersion. So there's some discussions to be had there. We won't probably get into that aspect too much today, but something to think about if you're a streamer. And a thing I've noticed too is that with games that are lacking that immersion, they tend to have a higher burnout factor. So there's some things there from a game mechanics perspective, and the creative side, whether you're looking at the hard stuff, the technical stuff, or the softer stuff like the story, the characters, stuff like that. So we have some foundation of game theory there. There's a lot to game theory and the psychology of gaming, game mechanics, gamification, all that stuff. But let's look at some of the creative factors that make experiences more immersive. Now, most will say that a strong narrative or character development is what immerses you in the experience. Actually, most will just say it's just a story. And we'll see here in a bit that that's only part of the equation. In fact, from a gamification perspective, it has been proven that theme is detached from stickiness. That is, theme is a good hook, but it is rarely part of the core experience, the thing that keeps you engaged or returning. So I would even expand from that upon that further. So, the theme may keep you coming back, but how long you stick with it, the actual immersion of it, that comes down to the gameplay. And, with that in mind, I would say great storytelling is a huge enhancement. It's great value added. It's even a selling point. But it can't really carry a game if the game mechanics are lacking. So bad gameplay is bad gameplay. A bad game with a great story is still a bad game because it's failing at what it is really supposed to be part of the core experience. For that to just be a movie, right? That's how I feel about it, at least. Then again, people love Telltale games and they love The Last of Us. And those games, if you ask me, are uninspired or they're just on rails. There's no real, fail state or any real impact or repercussions for your decisions. Like your decisions, your choices don't really seem to matter. You're just kind of along for the ride. Well, in the case of The Last of Us, it's just a lot of the same old mechanics and nothing really special. But the story, people always talk about the story and how visually stunning it is, and that's what we're seeing a lot in the gaming industry. Is that now people are judging video games as if they're movies, and those are very two different mediums. You know that the media cannot be different. I mean, they have the similarities, right? But when I play a game, I don't know. I want to play a game. I want to get involved, interact with it, and if it's a great story, even better. But not the first thing I look for. Let me know if I'm crazy. I am crazy, but let me know if you agree or disagree and why. But let's look at the psychological side, because that does fit in a lot into the creative aspects of it. You know, I would say it all boils down to richness, or what we could often call depth. There's some slight distinction, I would say, but they are kind of synonymous. We're not gonna get too deep into terminology, to the terminology and the distinctions thereof. But psychologyofgames.com cites the following breakdown for richness: multiple channels of sensory information, completeness of sensory information, cognitively demanding environments, and a strong and interesting narrative, plot, or story. I'm going to strike through that last one because you do not need that. They kind of made it sound like you need all four of those components to have an immersive game. I disagree. Tire Claw makes a good point here. XCOM 1 and 2 are immersive. I'm a huge fan of the games. Those games are not really story driven. There's a story there, but I bet you most fans of it are not like familiar with the characters or what's going on like on a deep level, the lore of it, the mythos behind it, the different types of enemies. But the gameplay makes it so memorable, So you kind of look at it at a high level, like, hey, you got these mech suits now, and you fight these aliens that have mind control, and a lot of those aspects are swappable. They're arbitrary because what really carries that experience is the gameplay. So that's a good example of an immersive game, I would say, definitely. So yeah, I agree with all but the latter. Strong or interesting narrative, plot, or story, not so much. You can be immersed in an experience without a story. In fact, with video games, storytelling, when you're doing storytelling and storyboarding, a lot of times, I would say, most of the time, less is more. Now, depending on how compelling your experience is and the genre of the offering, you may want to let the player create their own backstories, their own story overall, and their own conclusions. Like, for example, in a sandbox experience, there's often really no story, yet we are fully immersed. We're lost. We get lost in that world, and we're fully engaged with it. Depending on what we're doing. If it's interesting enough of an experience, then we're engaged in it. So really, that's the last statement they say on psychology of games. I would say that more appropriately, and to make it correct 100% of the time, the experience has to be interesting, not the narrative. The narrative is a component of the experience, but it's not a requirement of the experience. Especially the core experience, the real heart of it. Because a lot of times you see something, you look at a product, a creative piece, creative work, a piece of content, and you see a core offering, but what is really the thing that's the heart of it, the essence of it, that you say, this is what I'm really selling, all right? This is what's really resonating with people. And that's something you really had to think about when you're marketing, because that's what you're really communicating and reinforcing. And that's what you kind of build out from. So everything else is just kind of a wrapper to bring more attention to that core, that heart of the experience. And that's a tough process. No one's really perfected it. They just kind of get better and better with it as they go along. Some go backwards, though. That does happen, especially with the big studios. I don't know what they're thinking sometimes. So holistically, I would say that the psychology of games does have a complete assessment there. I think there needs to be enough content demanding attention so that players remain engaged. And I think this assessment forgets some key elements. Some of the things that come to mind is an experience has to be interesting beyond presentation and theme. Because usually the presentation and the theme, those things don't last very long. They have diminishing value, a novelty that kind of fades away. So unless your target audience consists of people that prefer interactive movies and not real games, quote unquote, then you really need to get that experience to be as interesting as possible. And I just, so there's a thing that when you look at core mechanics and gimmicks, a gimmick is something that it doesn't really have the experience. It just kind of, you could tell it was just shoehorned in. It was just a way to throw a smoke screen up to say, hey, we didn't really change this game up. It's the same thing as the last one. But now, instead of using a regular gamepad, you put this thing in your head and shake your head around. That's how you move your character. That's not really enhancing the experience, unless they really do something really interesting with that mechanic, So you have to look at, from a game design perspective, what's the core, excuse me, what's the core experience? And that's a tricky thing. The core mechanics, they have to be rock solid, because that's going to be the things that people go, well, they have this and that, and that's kind of cool, but really the big thing is this mechanic. Like when people talk about Bloodborne, they say, oh, it's Dark Souls, but one of the biggest things is you can parry, and the controls are more fluid. So that's where you start getting to the heart of it. Like, that's a core mechanic. Those are core mechanics right there. Anywho, I think there also needs to be a flow, and Gabe Zickerman talks about this a lot. The flow, or the flow zone, is basically a balance between the challenge and reward, right? So you ever play a game, and this happens to me a lot. I'm playing it, and I'm kind of just along for the ride. I'm kind of playing it almost grudgingly, I'm kind of like, eh. And what I find with that is that there's a lack of a sense of progression, and that sense of progression it has to be a perfect balance of, is this fresh enough, is this challenging enough, and the challenging aspect changes for each player. So people like really hard games like roguelikes, or a game like Dark Souls. But I think for everyone, regardless of how hard things are and how much that difficulty progresses and scales as you go along, I think the important thing is getting a sense of rewards. The rewards have to kind of scale almost on a one-to-one basis to be perfect, to have that perfect flow. So if this picture a bar graph, and you want the X and Y coordinates to be lined up perfectly, so that line is a perfect 45-degree angle going straight up. So as the difficulty gets harder, the rewards get better. And that's kind of the thing that I think is important in any game, because otherwise there's friction, and we'll come back to that notion as well. The thing is too, we want the end goal, we want the end game rewards, we want the end level rewards, but it also needs to be immediate gratification. This has become more and more of a thing with modern games and just content as a whole. If people feel like there's not a sense of progression, they don't feel like there's a immediate, reward. They don't have that instant gratification. You start to lose interest, because there's so many things that are enticing us and trying to get us to play, that it's hard to get into a game, that kind of says, well, just stick with us a little longer. It's gonna get better. It's gonna be worth it. So you need that. You need that immediate gratification, no matter how you chop it up, because without it, the core mechanics can just become kind of grindy or mundane. Another thing is, they mentioned sensory information. Now, I think sensory information should also include feedback systems and loops. So what that is whenever it's very clear that you did something right. It could be subtle, or it could be right in your face. Think about how satisfying it is when your character or your screen flashes, and maybe that's accompanied with a triumphant horn, or a da 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 da. Like, how iconic is that music, right? Ba 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 ba. That's the Final Fantasy music, and it makes you feel like, hey, I did something good. And it kind of becomes ingrained in your psyche. And if it's done right, it's refreshing, not annoying. And defining that frequency really depends on what you're asking of the player. So the harder it gets, again, the more you want to have that gratification or something to bridge the gap between the major milestones. So leveling up is one of those big things where you have a clear feedback, and the player goes, I did something right. And the Elder Scrolls Online is funny because sometimes you'll earn experience for the silliest of things. Like, I fell off a cliff, but I ended up falling into a place where I discovered a new place, and I leveled up from that because I needed a little bit more of experience. But I do it right because I realized that the reason I leveled up is because I discovered a new place. But someone else might be like, well, so I get experience for falling off cliffs? I'm just gonna keep jumping off cliffs all day. So, there's really interesting things to think about there, like how clear feedback systems are. Those feedback loops really impacts, and it impacts, the sense of satisfaction, and also, either builds up the creative sides of the game or takes away from it. Because, again, you might have a great story, but if people are not enjoying the game, then it's not happening. It's not happening. By the way, I see Obi1X2 is streaming, and Mr. _Sun21 is about. So after the show, make sure you guys check them out. Let's see here. Let me check the All Games chat. Make sure I didn't miss anything. He's starting Derek H is starting the first chapter of his novel. The first line really is hard to figure out. That's always the first step is always the hardest. What else do we have here? Trying 2 in 3D is amazing. He's played on a PS4. It is a beautiful game. Wow, I actually missed some stuff here. When did this stuff happen? Oh, this might be stuff from last night. Yeah, stuff from last night. Okay. Alright. So what else do we have? Scrolling back up in my notes. I was looking ahead to see how we're doing on time. We're only an hour in, so that's good. So we mentioned, let me see here. So, there's much to think about, there's much to this whole richness and this assessment over at Psychology of Games. So I think creatives working on the softer side of video games need to think about the mechanics and some of the tech driving the experience. Now, it really matters because the more all of the elements gel, the better the overall experience. Technical says American Truck Simulator is immersive. Yeah, simulations. I would say simulations are immersive because they get so much of the detail right that you do get lost in that. And the thing about that, when you have the minutia of control and customization, there's the depth there, but there is a point where it becomes too much. The point at which it becomes too much is when it becomes cumbersome and it's no longer fun. And fun is a hard thing to quantify or even qualify. What is fun? Because that's a very subjective thing. Now you can go back to the flow zone. This whole thing is the sense of progression and how well you ease people into the experience. So as the bar moves up for difficulty, the rewards move up too. And you always need to have that feedback, that positive reinforcement of saying, hey, you did something well. Here's an achievement. Here's a trophy. Here's something, you unlocked something. These little things are feedback, part of the feedback loop that keeps players engaged in the process. And simulation games have been around for such a long time, and I always find it fascinating. I remember one of the games that one of the more obscure games that I used to put time into was Ultrabots, and it's kind of like a precursor to the MechWarrior games. I think no, MechWarrior came around at the same time, but Ultrabots did something really interesting. It was just something about the way the cockpit view was. So there was a creative aspect in there. You had a good sound engineering. The cockpit view, it made you really feel like you were there, and that helped with the immersion. And I think a lot of times people focus a lot on the graphics and the storytelling aspects, but they don't speak enough about the sound engineering. All those little things do help out, but I still think it just comes back to the game mechanics and the feedback systems that kind of ping you and let you know that was a good thing. And there's even minor feedback, like maybe you figured out how to turn on your mech, and the game lets you know that you did the right thing because something lights up. Oh, I think someone is joining us. Let me bring him in. Merg.
Yo.
Hey, what's up, brother? Just a
Much.
quick reminder: we do keep this show clean. This is a G-rated show.
Right.
But I bring you just in time because we're talking about right now we're talking about feedback loops in game design and how they impact immersion. That's where we're at. You have anything to say to that? I'm gonna catch you up. So talking about from the more from the creative perspective, the things, the elements of game design, all the game mechanics and the creative components that make a game immersive,
right,
and ultimately fun. Like what keeps you so immersed in that experience where you're fully engaged with it and you're not kind of playing it passively. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, obviously a large component of that is realism. Like, I'm gonna go to Skyrim here as an example, just because one that I have the most experience with as far as realism is concerned, but not necessarily on the base game.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you install the Frostfall mods and the realistic needs and diseases, well, then I'm running around and instead of fast traveling everywhere, I'm actually moving from place to place, and I'm trying to build shelter, make sure I don't starve and whatnot, and
Yeah.
a little bit of tweaking, they can become really realistic, and I feel like I'm actually living in Skyrim as that character that I chose to be.
I see. That's actually an interesting thing because realism could detract as much as it could add to the experience. But the thing that's interesting about realism is the underlying drivers there. I think it's more about one having a frame of reference. So you need to have something, no matter how out there your experience is, there needs to be something that people could relate to, so it grounds it enough, right? And that's important in any kind of creative work, whether you're doing a movie, a book, video game, whatever. But the other aspect is, I don't think it's so much that it needs to be realistic so that you feel like you're there, but there needs to be maybe a sense of consequence. What do you think?
Yeah, I will also say that it's definitely dependent on person. That I like the fact that I have to worry about whether or not whether I'm getting cold or all that. However, other people who play a game and they want immersion, they don't want that type of immersion.
Right.
So I'll say that that's also a factor.
Yeah, and I think with that, it's a matter of just managing the expectations because ultra realism sounds really cool, but that's not something you always want because there's a certain point at which you're like, this is too realistic, and I'm really doing this to escape from reality.
Right.
Like you play Sims, and it's like, oh, I'm paying bills. Oh, I just filed for bankruptcy. I just got divorced. yeah, I don't like this. This isn't enjoyable.
But then you get a game like Second Life, which not necessarily realistic, or Eve actually is a good example, where it nearly just becomes a second job, where you'll come home from your job, you'll boot up your computer, sit down, and you're working again, but in a different way. And again, it's different for everybody. Some people really like that.
Yeah, that's still a form of escapism. Yeah.
But then you have people like me. I really like the concept of Eve, but I dislike how structured and job-like it is. I don't want to. If I play a game, I don't want to play a job.
Yeah. Basically, Eve, as amazing, I love the concept, and I love the depth of the game, but it's almost deep to a fault because it's almost like spreadsheets in outer space, like the numbers crunching and oh man. Did you see that whole article about the most massive battle in Eve to date?
Yeah, I've looked a lot about Eve, but there was one that was just an absolutely massive battle.
Where all the Titans were destroyed.
Yeah, it was like some hundreds of thousands of lost dollars or something.
Yeah. They what was it? In-game currency was like in the billions, and they equated how much it cost, like the damage actually cost in U.S. dollars. It was like 330K, something insane like that. And I'm like,
yeah, I don't want to play a realistic game like that and just be like, oh, now I just lost, more than my salary. Like, I mean, not independently, but what if you were one of those people who wasn't, like, weren't a Titan, and you're trying to help them, you make a mistake, and then you get it lost, and then you've got to worry about, your corporation, the people you play with being upset at you about that, and then you've got to wait for however long to retrain those skills, because, how much you know about the Eve skill system?
Yeah.
But if you die, you lose a significant chunk of them.
Yeah. It's a roguelike, basically. The consequences of everything are huge.
Yeah.
Nah, it's just crazy. Like, I can only imagine how bitter some people had to have been there to lose that many Titans. Because Titans are not something. It's not like you just click build.
No.
In a day, it's up and it's running around, like flying around, like, hi, I'm a Titan. Like, nope. You need materials and the credits and investing in research.
Lot of junk.
Yeah, oof. Yeah, I can only imagine. I mean, I've been playing a lot of Elder Scrolls Online lately, as you know, and people get mad when in the PvP there when they die, and there's no real consequence to dying. In PvP, your armor doesn't get damaged, you don't lose experience, it doesn't set you back in any way. It's just you died. And maybe the worst you have to do is ride back onto the battlefield and spend another, 5-10 minutes getting to the battle. But that's
Which
it.
always sucks. One part I definitely did not like about Elder Scrolls Combat.
Yeah, well, they're changing that. They're bringing back the forward camps, so you can set up a forward camp and then spawn closer to the action. They're changing a lot of that stuff, dude. A lot of changes coming to Elder Scrolls. Might be a good time to come back for folks that have been on the fence. And they're listening to the community.
Good.
So that's always a good thing. So
I don't know. What I would like them to do is kind of unfeasible. Actually, this ties back into our immersion. I would really like them to instance a lot more than they do, but it would require. I want them to instance more because I feel like in an MMO like that, you've got 1,001 other guys just running around. It's it takes away from the experience that I'm the hero. How am I the hero when there's 120 other heroes running around trying to save the same guy? Like, I don't feel
they do a pretty.
Same.
That's an opportunity with every MMO though. It's like
I'm aware of that.
You're the chosen one, but so is everyone else. You're special, but so is everyone else. So if everyone's special, then no one's special.
Exactly. Like I'm aware of that difficulty. I didn't expect Elder Scrolls to be able to capture the same level of immersion as did like Skyrim could. With obvious reasons. I'm not going to expect a game to do something that it's preposterous to even attempt.
Yeah, I
So
think.
I'm not at all docking it for that. I would, if they did add more not immersive, but more what's the word I just said? Instances to it. I do
Yeah.
think it would be a little bit more. It would be a little bit more immersive and more Elder Scrollsy to me.
So the latter, I definitely agree with, because I think there's immersion here. This is a different kind of immersion, and it's more like the MMO style of immersion where there's like the minutia of stuff you can do is what keeps you fully engaged in it. But then at the
And
same time, you could play it passively. So like you may not be as invested in your character or the narrative, but you're engaged in the activities of it all.
right.
So that's actually a big problem with the way Elder Scrolls Online has been received. If it wasn't Elder Scrolls Online, people would probably love it more. But it's
Yeah.
because they expect it to be that single player experience and they're trying to force it to be that. It's not meant to be that. And actually, I feel like instancing, I have mixed feeling about it. Like they're doing more instance content with the next patch with Thieves Guild. Everything's gonna be instanced for that. All the quests there, so you're not
Okay.
competing for the same stuff. But the problem with that is it makes the game less social. Like I feel like there needs to be more aggregation because I like
Well,
in an MMO the world to feel alive and there to be natural opportunities to encounter people, to team up, recruit for your guild and all that.
they should do it kind of like what Destiny did.
Oh God.
Like, I don't make it to where you have the social areas aren't particularly instanced. I mean, you're
See,
gonna have to, or else you're gonna have a bajillion people in one area trying to do the same thing, and that's a little ridiculous.
but see, that's the problem with Destiny. It's such a, it like Destiny. I loved it until I realized how shallow it was and how antisocial of a game it was.
Yeah, and it's if they could tweak it to make it a little bit better, I think they would have a lot going for it. Like, I know where you're coming from. It is very hard to meet people in Destiny, but like if we're talking Elder Scrolls Online, it's not like there's just it's not like there's just the tower. There's a whole bunch of other opportunities to encounter people, and you don't have if your player base is 500,000 players, you don't not pushing 500,000 people into a kind of small area.
Yeah.
And you have it to where you're out in world have sorry, I'm
You're thinking?
focus on one other thing. If you have it out in the world, you've got a chance that you can run into other people and say that this section there's another 20 people in this.
See, the problem I have with designated social areas is that it makes it too easy for people to circumvent that whole thing. So, I think you have to fully commit. If you're a multiplayer tuned experience, you need to make it that.
Well,
And not half step it, because the moment you say, well, here's some stuff for people that like to do the lone wolf stuff, then then you just make a separate game that's single player. And I feel like because then what it does, you'll have weird things where you'll invite a friend or a random, and they're mad at you, or they're mad at you for helping them in their quests, even though you're in your mind you're like, well, this is an MMO and it's a multiplayer experience, and I just randomly encountered you, and you look like you needed help because you were about to die, but you're mad at me because you think I'm trying to steal your loot. I think the compromise is having semi-instance
yeah,
areas. So that's more of a load balancing thing anyway, because you don't want it to be like, whoa, like
right.
if you have too much interaction,
No,
it devalues each individual interaction, right?
no. Okay, don't get me wrong. When I say more like Destiny, I'm talking about the player encounters, like in the world. How this section is kind of its own instance. That you've got a couple of different groups of instances. Maybe I'm just gonna pick an arbitrary number, like 20 channels, and you've got, if there's 200 players in this specific area, then you've got 10 of them. One in that area, it's not like a really small area. It's enough to where it'll spread the density out. That it's you only really have 10, 15, 20 at max players for not really a kilometer, but kind of that, like a square kilometer-ish area, maybe like half a kilometer. That way you're not running into people every 30 seconds,
Yeah.
but there's still people there that you can meet and you can encounter. And then you can keep the global chats, that way everybody can talk about whatever they want to talk about. Because global chat's fun and goals, we need it.
Well, I agree with that. That does make the each encounter more significant. But like Destiny's on a whole other side of the spectrum, right?
Right.
Because when you look at scope, the tragic thing is that Destiny doesn't know if it wants to be an MMO or a more traditional shooter.
Right.
And then the world is really tiny when you look at it. Like those zones are pretty darn tiny, and they feel mostly dead. And what's each instance maxed out on? Usually, like the most you'll see is 20 randoms running around. I think.
And those are kind of smaller areas too, though.
Well, yeah. Once you go outside of the tower, the social hubs, it's like the most each instance will have. I think is like 20 on the consoles. That's it. And it's pretty. And then they're big enough where the people will be spread out significantly. But I don't know. I totally hear what you're saying. I'm just nitpicking. I think Destiny's a good example of a lot of things of what not to do in the MMO.
I think Destiny has a good idea. They could have just executed it a little bit differently.
Yeah, the ideas and potential definitely.
They've separated it to where you're so spaced out that it doesn't feel that there's a lot of players at all. And and I will say that I do believe that Destiny, since they were making primarily for console, they kind of went in with the assumption that players already had a friend base.
Yeah. And
which, being on Xbox One, it's not a really terrible assumption. Then you got people like, I'm coming back for not having played for years. And so, coming back on it, and there's nothing. I don't really have any friends, and the most friends that I made were playing with you, the couple of people I encountered, and they still have their own friends that rather go do things with.
Yeah, that's the big issue right there. Is a lot of us have friends that play the same game, but unless you're consistently engaged with them, they're rolling with their own cliques. And this is the general opportunity with a lot of online experiences, is that they don't make it easy for you to naturally encounter and collaborate with your friends. They create this kind of ruse of massive scale, but ultimately it still shards into like a nucleus of like 3 to 4 people. It's weird.
Right.
I mean, you look at guild systems and MMOs, and
and like there's one game that I play that's I'm actually kind of right now just throwing around. That guilds are less of a. There's not in this game. There's not. I don't know if you've heard of Mabinogi.
Yes, that's the like the anime style game, right?
Yeah, which is ironic that I play it because I don't know really anything about anime. But
I played it a while back. That game's been going on at least 5 years.
Oh yeah, no, it's a really old game. You can definitely tell it's dated, and because it's so old, there's a lot of people who have left. I've been on it for a long time. I don't really have a lot of friends in the game. So I don't really have social motivation to play it, which is a large aspect of the game. So I'm kind of in a situation where it's, for me, I'm trying to figure out what to do and stuff. And if I join a guild, it's kind of a big deal because usually those social groups help you, get more interested and more wanting to play the game. Hey, let's go do this. Okay, sure. Or, hey, let's go do this. Okay, sure. But this game specifically, those guilds are so cliquish, a lot of them, it's really hard to get in.
Yeah.
You can join, by all means, you're probably free to join them, but by actually feeling part of the guild is usually kind of a difficult thing.
You know, that's a big issue. You know, I call that the elitism of old gaming communities.
Abenoji is very terrible with elitism.
Yeah, that's it's something that's encouraged by flaws in game design because the bad thing about immersion is where you put on blinders and ignore key factors around you. So you have to if you say this is a community driven game, you have to really integrate that seamlessly into the core experience. And that's another missed opportunity in MMOs. And that's like that. Right now, our guild is about to break 200 members.
What?
Geeky Antics Elder Scrolls Online guild.
Oh,
for
and
Xbox
this
One.
is all on, you said, Xbone?
Yeah, Xbone.
If I could transfer my game over from...
You can.
That I could?
You can transfer from PC, your character from PC to Xbox One.
Okay, I might actually do that.
Yeah, dude. Because the biggest challenge there, and it's sad, like this would be stuff that's addressed on the creative side, on the game design side, but the community has to take arms with it and say, hey, well, what can we do to grow our group organically so we leave no one behind? Like you said, it's a terrible experience to be part of a guild but not really part of it. Like, oh, I'm just a head count. Like, but no one's sending me invites, no one's sending me in-game mail, no one's really, at least trying to ping me to let me know that they notice me. Oh, notice me, senpai, It's like, you're just kind of there.
Because a huge part of, us as human beings, we're social creatures. So if you want a social game that if you have a party system, you have, multiplayer content, like with WoW, like that, to get into that later stuff, you need know people to, feel a part. And if you're in a guild, then you don't actually feel like you are a functioning, fighting member of that guild, whatever that means to that game. Get rolled over, and you're just like, well, what am I really doing here?
Yeah, there's certain aspects of guilds in these games that is kind of just turnkey. It's kind of like, well, the assumption is that you'll join the guild, donate to the bank, and you get the benefit of using the guild trader or the guild marketplace, or just having that name that's prestigious. Oh, this is one of the top PvP guilds. This is one of the top PvE guilds. I get to wear their talberd, or I get to wear their uniform, or just have their nameplate, and I look cool now. Whatever the perk is. But then the main selling point should be there's a lot of cool people in here, and I actually matter. Like, I realistically, the bigger the guild, you can't interact with everyone on one-to-one basis. But what you do is you have squad leaders, you have officers that kind of spread that responsibility.
Christmas cheer.
Yeah, the Christmas cheer. There you go. Spread the Christmas cheer. So we have a few more things to talk about before we go off on that tangent. I know we could talk about MMOs for a little while, but let's talk about the notion of friction. Because you mentioned it earlier. I forgot what you said.
Friction, and immediately I'm like, force opposing, movement that's proportional to the natural force?
Well, that's in terms of physics.
Yeah, I'm a physics student, so.
Well, yeah, and it definitely, the notion applies to a degree here in that context, but it's more, it's friction is basically any time in game design, it's any time there's opposing game features or game mechanics. Okay, so you mentioned Elder Scrolls Online, one of the things that created friction for you. You didn't say it verbatim, but what I got from what you said is that the friction that's introduced from doing PvP, that when you die, you have to ride back to the battlefield. So there's a lot of friction there. Because you can't really be lost in experience because you're doing so many mundane things. Like, that mundane thing of riding back to the battlefield detracts from that experience. So you can't really enjoy the PvP because there's so much downtime in the midst of it. Unless you have to be fortunate that you're very lucky to be in a huge group and you don't die a lot, or you're just tanky as heck. You're just going to be spending half of your time or more, even if you have a fully upgraded mount, just riding into the battle. That's friction right there. It's a huge point of contention. So another point of friction, one area where friction is the most prevalent, I would say, is in the whole thing of the flow zone. So when you look at the bar graph of challenge scaling and the challenge difficulty scaling and the reward scaling, a lot of times the challenge, the difficulty will scale at a greater rate than a reward. And that's bad because you don't feel satisfied. It's like, wow, I just beat this, this elite boss and I got 5 pieces of gold out of it. Really?
Okay, I will say that I appreciate increase in challenge.
Mm-hmm.
Like I appreciate an exponential challenge increase and a linear reward increase, long as it's got a steep slope. Like I'm okay with, say we fight this one boss and I'm gonna go Dark Souls here.
Okay.
I don't know what else to use Dark Souls or to use as far as difficulty and reward is concerned.
Yeah, I actually mentioned Dark Souls earlier because that's a good example. It's a good case study.
So in Dark Souls, I appreciate okay, first playthrough you don't get everything you want. There's still things that you have to play through a second time to really get, and I'm okay with that. I feel like playing it through that extra time, the things they are exponentially harder. Everything is basically twice as hard, almost, numerically. Fact. And you've got to play about that. Everything is so much harder, but you've only got the rewards of the items are not exponentially greater. Like you get being a mage, I only really know about the magic things, but you have to get through the 4th playthrough or be 300 or 500 times and win 500 times basically consecutively.
Yeah.
Get positive 500 in your PvP record, or get to your 4th playthrough in an area to get one spell, and it's not a very powerful spell. It's a strong spell, and it's the strongest of the pyromancies. Those who don't know, Dark Souls, you've got miracles, which are faith-based spells. You've got sorceries, which are intelligence-based. Talking Dark Souls 2 here. Then you have hexes, which are based off of both your lowest stat, int, or faith. And then you have pyromancies, which your int and faith together, and that's how you scale with them. So your strongest of your pyromancies is Forbidden Sun, and you don't get that until either you have 500 positive wins in PvP or your 4th playthrough.
Jesus.
I mean, it looks absolutely devastating. It's one of the most visual pleasing spells in the game, but that only means so much. And it's to get that spell, I have to go through that over and over again, and it's a challenge of this is where I've gotten. Look what I have. It's the exclusive rewards on an exponential difficulty increase. That's what I like. That way you can be basically a symbol of status of look what I can do, and it's a reason to press yourself to continue to achieve.
See, that's an interesting thing too because I prefer a skill-based reward versus a time-based reward because a time-based reward to me says if you're not willing to really devote your time and make us your own one and only love, you don't matter. That's kind of the message I feel it sends out from a marketing perspective. But on the flip side, I totally appreciate that. Is that prestige of I put the time in, I deserve this, I earned this. But these days with all the things going on, I'm a family man. I'm running the network. I always have stuff going on. My gaming time is not as much as it used to be by any means. And you say 4th playthrough, and I'm like, I could barely even start a 2nd playthrough.
Well, with Dark Souls, you also, yes, it can be time-consuming to get to that point because it is such a linear progression. Play through the first time, play through the second time, play through the third time, play through the 4th time. I get what you're saying there, but I'm not necessarily talking about the time required to do it. No, I'll admit on my character that I have that spell and I've got 300 game hours. But that's not the point.
Oof.
It's the I really wish this game wasn't glitching, but whatever. I don't know if you know, Mabinogi is extremely glitchy.
Yeah, a lot of those old school games are. But
But not so much the time. Like if you could just jump in and be like, "Hey, I'm going to go through fourth playthrough difficulty," at first character, that would nearly be impossible.
yeah,
You have to just be a god among men to do it. But even if you had that option presented to you, I'm okay with that. I'm not necessarily saying you need to spend 300 hours on a single character to get to this point. It's the amount of skill to it.
well, I'm not saying there's no skill involved, but I feel like that's the kind of reward that it rewards more time invested in skill. You know what I mean?
You're right. But again, I'm just talking specifically of the skill. Like, I don't know a good example that's primarily exclusively skill related.
Well, let's bring it back to something that we both played a lot. Cause I played Dark Souls, but Elder Scrolls Online. Did you play a lot of the PvP when you played on the PC?
I played a little bit of it, but I never found a group that knew what they were doing and wasn't 12.
Well, here's the thing. In Elder Scrolls Online, they have a similar perk. One of the ultimate abilities is called Magica Detonation, and it has like two morphs. Proximity Detonation or Inevitable Detonation, I believe is what they're called. A lot of people use Proximity Detonation, and what it does is the person puts a nuke on themselves, and then they just bolt in and explode themselves, and they can pretty much take out a whole group of 30 to 50 people. It's pretty stupid.
What could possibly go wrong with attaching a nuke to my body?
Yeah, you don't die from it though, because reasons. But here's what's even sillier about it. Like now, people say it's not that broken if you build spell resistance, but if they build spell penetration, it's still gonna kill most people. This is what's more silly about it. The only way you get it is by doing lots of PvP. I know there's people in my guild that they do PvP daily. They almost do not even touch the PvE at all. My brother's one of them. He's not even a gamer, but he's gotten the MMO sickness. And now all he does is Elder Scrolls Online, and he plays the PvP religiously. It's crazy. I'm like, are you my brother? Like, he was never into games. He was always about going out partying, going to bars, and I was always more of the nerd. And I'm proud of it. I don't mind, But it's just funny. He's into that aspect, and even though he's put, I don't know, he's had to put at least 1,000+ hours into PvP. Even though he put so much time into it, he still hasn't leveled up his assault skill line to unlock that ability. So that tells you, it's like, wow, the amount of time. And he posts records where he gets 100k alliance points a day. And he's already in the top 100 in our campaign, in our server. That's no small feat. Top 100 in the PvP ladder? That's crazy. Yeah, it's just shout out Tony for MVP, Azura Star. Yo. Love you, bro. But, like, I don't like that. Personally, that actually demotivates me. But that's one of those things where it's subjective. Like, some people will motivate them because, like, I can have something that no one else had. You mentioned that earlier, the exclusivity of it. It's like, I got this. But you know what it ends up doing is that it creates a meta where everybody ultimately has the same build. And that's bad.
Yeah. Now, getting that exclusive reward, like what I was saying, with Forbidden Sun and Dark Souls, it's not. I mean, it's the most powerful of a type of pyromancy, but it's by no means like the most powerful spell. It's just how you've got Fireball, Fire Orb, Great Fire Orb, or Great Fireball, or whatever. Then you have Forbidden Sun, and they're all your basic, just hurl fire at the enemy kind of thing. Forbidden Sun it's a large ball that actually leaves a burn area on the ground, but there's so many different types of pyromancies that depending on what you're fighting, that's not necessarily your best option.
Yeah. It's interesting. It's like one of those things where it's not you realize it's not really worth it, but it's like when you do it, it's like I did it and you didn't. So that's you're selling the prestige of it.
That's something that I like, and it's hard to do, to give that prestige and like, hey, look what I have, make it to where it's not just a status symbol, but it's also not the example of Elder Scrolls. It's not like end all component of the game. Like,
well, and
the way that you were
the other thing you mentioned too, because it's also worth noting that we're talking about a mostly single player experience. Because Dark Souls isn't really tuned for multiplayer. It's there, but not really.
Right.
And Elder Scrolls Online is on the other side of the scale, right? So when you have the bigger the scale of your multiplayer experience, the harder it is to balance that, because you want rewards, but not if those rewards are too significant, it turns off the more casual players. And let's be honest, without a player base, that's a bad decision. Oh yeah, we're rewarding our most dedicated players, but everybody else is quitting because they're tired of the BS.
Right, and that's getting that status symbol. That look at the mastery of the game I've achieved. I think that this should be not necessarily something that's extremely powered, like you were saying with the Elder Scrolls, when they can just walk in and clear a keep. They should be more like utility based. Like, this player is good enough that they can use this to their advantage.
I like that. Yes, utility versus like a hard edge. That
Right.
Absolutely. Like,
but it's hard to make that proper,
Yeah, it's like in theory it makes sense, but it's like, how do I execute that? I agree, and it is a super hard job. Like, I've been involved with game design at different levels, and it's not easy because you'll have in your head, you'll have this idea, and it's always like this perfect utopia in your head, and then you execute it, and it's like, oh, I just created a dystopian future. Oh well, oops.
Yeah.
So, I want to go back to, cause we got about a little less than half hour left, but we speak a lot to like writing and the creative process, and I always hear people saying, "Oh, that game is immersive," and what they're saying is it has a good story, and I don't feel like you have to have a compelling story to have an immersive experience. This is one of the things we kind of touched upon earlier in the discussion before you joined, Merg, but I do think memorable characters are important, whether it's a strong protagonist or a character you could customize to really make it your own and become attached to it.
And Bethesda games are really good at that. You can do whatever you want to your character effectively.
Yeah. Did you play Life is Strange? Or have you seen it played?
Oh.
Well, this is a game that a lot of people say is immersive or it's compelling, and while I don't think it has a particularly unique or riveting story, I can see the appeal and draw of the characters, and I think the characterization is what carries it, because the gameplay isn't even that riveting. It's kind of an on-rails experience that really isn't a fail state. I mean, the only way you can really fail in that game is if, I don't know, you try to lose or you're not paying attention. I don't know. And it'll let you try again because timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly.
Right.
But Life is Strange is an interesting case study onto itself. And there seems to be a lot more of these kind of interactive movie-type things. Now, we're going to move on from the immersion discussion and kind of touch upon some games that have made an impression on us over time, whether they're recent games or more throwback, old-school games. And in lieu of the fact that XCOM 2 just came out, are you getting that, Merg?
I don't know anything about XCOM, so...
Oh, this is awesome! Dude, okay.
I actually have XCOM Enemy Unknown because of the Bioshock Infinite pre-order, but I don't know anything about it, so...
Now, I don't think there's cooperative in XCOM. When I'm double check, I've played the PvP in it, and if there's cooperative, I would love to jam with you on that then. Because if you like real-time strategies or tactics games, better yet, XCOM, I would say, is the definitive game. It's like the grandfather of the modern tactics. And they're still innovating upon that genre. Like, it's amazing. And I kind of want to jump into XCOM 2, but the scope of original XCOM is so massive that I still haven't even put a dent into that game. And I'm okay with that, 'cause I got my money's worth. There's tons of replay value. But we
I
have to
don't
look
know
into that.
anything. What is XCOM even about?
So the premise of it is think of Men in Black, but with big guns. You're part of a covert, Black Ops type unit of the government, and your whole thing is to take care of alien and supernatural threats before they create a panic. That's the basic premise. So it's very sci-fi heavy, but really what it comes down to, like, it's not a game that I think the lore, the mythos carries it. It's you can identify that, it's memorable like to a degree, but really it's just the gameplay experience I think is just so strong that's like, wow, like you get engrossed in it, you get immersed in it, and it's fun, dude. Like, and the thing about it is it's got that rogue kind of aspect to it where as you go along, you level up, you build out your base. You create, you research different technologies and improve the
So
armor.
it's an RTS?
Yes and no, because this is what happened. You have a base of operations, right? And you expand that base as you earn more credits, and do missions, and then reinvest it in your base. And you research different technology, new weapons, armor types, all this stuff, right? You train your soldiers as well. But where it gets interesting is, and we're going back to the whole aspect of consequences and repercussions for your choices matter. As you recruit people, you get more connected to them to a degree. You don't really learn too much of their backstory or whatever, but you may make your own conclusions in your head. You give them a name, you become a little attached to them, you become invested in them, especially if you give them a lot of good armor and you level them up to a degree, and they gain more experience through battle as well. But if any of your people die, they're dead. There's no resurrecting, no respawning. They're gone. Permadeath.
Right. Kind of like Fire Emblem.
Yep.
Well, classic Fire Emblem.
Yeah, I haven't played it forever. But yeah, dude. So like, it's just there's a lot of interesting things there, and it's just it's a great game, dude. It's fun.
Okay, so real quick on the XCOM, I have the Bureau, XCOM Declassified, and XCOM Enemy Unknown. Which one should I attempt first?
So Bureau is a deviation from the core series. It's cool, but it's more of a first-person shooter. It's not really what's considered an pure XCOM experience. XCOM Enemy Unknown is the actual experience as it's been known since the early 90s. That's the definitive way to play it. But the Bureau is cool too. So
I just have them, and I honestly don't know where. Where from? They're just kind of there, or whatever.
So your homework is to find out if there's a way we could do cooperative. That'd be cool. Could that be a?
Watch this store.
You have it on Steam?
Yeah, I have it on Steam. I'm just gonna check if XCOM has.
Now, BFT 9000 in OB's chat, he's excited about XCOM 2. So I might have to look if XCOM 2 added some more
storefront and not my. Why am I keep not going to?
So why you look into that? How big were you on like the classic Sega games? Maybe 32-bit era.
Wasn't into Sonic just because I found it boring. Shoot me. I understand. It's just and everybody's got their own preferences. I didn't particularly find Sonic run in circles constantly. But
well, there is more to Sega than Sonic. But
yeah,
but I understand.
I don't recall too much else. Well,
are you into the retro stuff at all? Like, are you one of those people that could go back to like dated graphics as long as the gameplay is there? Or...
yeah, it really depends on the game.
Okay.
I can't really do RPGs that stretch back. Like, it's difficult for me to go back and play the old Final Fantasies, how they are presented now.
Yeah, they've redone a lot of those, but it's just like the random encounters and like constant interruptions to the gameplay. Again, friction. Yeah, those are hard to go back to. They're so grindy. and formulaic even. But yeah, those are a product of the time. But I got a few recommendations. There's a few games I would recommend going back to that I feel are games that had an impact on my life, and I think innovated and inspired me, and I hope that other people kind of borrow from them and build upon these concepts. But before I go to the Sega games, I want to recommend. There's a modern game that I've been kind of ambassador for. It's called Dungeon of the Endless. Have you heard of this?
You told me about it earlier. I haven't looked into it yet.
So just reinforcing what I've been saying throughout all our podcasts is this game, the reason I'm so big on it, it's a 4-player co-op game. It's a roguelike dungeon crawler. So it's like Diablo on hardcore. You're playing for keeps. And then there's elements of tower defense, RTS, action RPG, and so much more. But the thing is, all those things are executed upon in a very excellent manner. Like, it's not just like, oh, we do a little bit of everything, but we're not good at anything. Like, it's amazing on all fronts. So I really recommend people check it out. I have a copy for whoever wants it and really wants it. Message me on Steam or Twitter.
XCOM Enemy Unknown, or XCOM 2 has multiplayer, according to Steam.
Oh, I know it has multiplayer, but I think it's mostly PvP. If it has co-op, online co-op.
This is multiplayer, so I don't really know.
So we'll have to research it, because I gotta be in the mood for the PvP. And the sad part is when you do the PvP in that game, everybody ultimately just uses the aliens with mind control, and it's kind of broken. And then you just pick out your most powerful guys and turn them on each other. It's like, well, not really much to do to stop that.
One quick Google search away, XCOM 2 co-op mode already in the works thanks to modders. So it looks like we're not going to have it naturally.
This would be a modding thing. I don't know why that wouldn't be like something just built into the game. Because I like to just, I like to play everything multiplayer. It makes, again, it immerses me more in the thing, in the game.
I do like when the devs release the mod kits to the community, because they have the potential to add a lot to the game.
Yeah.
In any Bethesda game ever, a perfect example.
Well, I still haven't put enough time into Skyrim. I put a lot of time into Oblivion and sometimes Daggerfall in the previous games, but Skyrim, for some reason, my gaming play was so full, I know I have to really revisit that game. I'm going to have to eventually just play on a PC. I played on 360 and it was great on there, but the mods on the PC, I think that's the way to play it. So eventually. In the chat, BFT9000 saying, is asking if we've seen the trailer for Doom. That game is looking really good.
Yeah.
I'm excited about it.
Saw that on Facebook, I think, and it was like, Bethesda. And then there's this guy running around punching a whole bunch of demons in the face, and I'm like, what is this game?
Yeah. Dude, halfway
through, I'm like, oh no, this is Doom.
I'm a huge fan of classic Doom, and I think they did a good job capturing the spirit of the original Doom, while at the same time, like, making a unique experience, not just a regurgitated offering. I'm really excited about this. It's going to be such a fun sandbox experience, a fun single-player experience, and an amazing multiplayer experience. Like, they're firing off all cylinders. But I'm trying
Bethesda has always been a sandbox.
Yeah.
I don't know any open-world sandbox game that can compete with Bethesda's. I just don't.
Well, it's interesting because that's always been known as the id property. Now it's id Bethesda. So seeing the personality of Bethesda as we've come to know them in Doom without disrupting that core experience.
Right,
it's really
neat. Classic Doom, if I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, was very like a linear kind of gameplay.
No, it actually had like the level design was really flexible. Like, you felt like it was pretty open. But yeah, I mean, to some degree. But if you play like the player-made levels, some of them were massive in scope. I was pretty big on the modding community, and I had a bunch of levels out. And for such a limited engine, the designs in those levels were pretty amazing, man. So there was definitely some you felt like you had a lot of control and flexibility and options. Like there were a lot of hidden passageways and alternate routes, secret areas, things that kind of been lost in time, to be honest. That I think still work today. But so yeah, Dungeon of the Endless and Doom are definitely games that have a huge impact. So I'm glad they brought it up in the chat. We were talking a lot about Elder Scrolls Online and what it does right and what it doesn't. It's about XCOM. So I'm gonna talk about a little bit of some Sega games. I'm a bit of a Sega fanboy. Actually,
Well, the Endless is 66% off right now.
Is it?
It's okay. Do you have it on PC or not?
Yeah, it's on PC.
Okay, because I can get.
I wish it would let me buy a 4-pack. I would totally buy a 4-pack for it and then give some more.
A whole bunch of additional content, isn't there? Oh, it's got cross-platform multiplayer, anyways.
Yep.
Doesn't matter what you have it on. I can sit happily on my PC and play it with you regardless. That's cool.
Yeah. See, the one thing I don't like about Steam is that it won't let you buy a 4-pack if you already own the game. I would totally buy a 4-pack at 66% off and have it to give to people.
It will.
Game.
It will. You just don't get. You get only 3.
Oh, let you buy it now?
I don't. Like,
I don't think it'll let you even add it to the cart, unless they changed that recently.
Don't know.
We're starting to get to that point we have to wrap up, so I want to recommend some old games to you. One of my favorite games of all time is Guardian Heroes, and it's cool because imagine if you could take your favorite fighting game with the smooth combat and like the fluidity of the combo system, and drop it into an action RPG setting where you have 4-player co-op, tons of unlockable characters, and branching storylines.
Okay, well, I'm not a very big fighting kind of guy.
But you like role-playing games, right?
I like RPGs.
Give Guardian Heroes a try, because you could play it on 360, Xbox Live Arcade. I think it's backwards compatible with Xbox One. Well, technically forwards compatible, but you know what I mean. So
the Xbox One is backwards compatible with this game in question.
Correct. So it depends how you look at it. The game is forwards compatible with Xbox One, or the Xbox One is backwards compatible with the game. It both works out the same. But yeah, dude, try it out. Give it a look. See, could they have an HD remix out there that gets rid of some of the jank that makes it harder to play today?
XCOM Enemy Unknown is 80% done installing, so.
We'll jam later. I definitely gotta check in with the family after this, but give it a whirl. See what you let me know what you think.
I've got a little.
I'll be lurking
today. LCS and all that.
That's right. But I'll be lurking on TeamSpeak, so we'll figure something out. We also have a guild meeting tonight for Elder Scrolls. It's a busy day. Panzer Dragoon Saga. I know you're saying not big on RPGs, but this is an RPG that is so unique that if you could get your hands on a emulated copy or a Sega Saturn and a copy of the game, this game is one of the earliest examples I can think of open world done right, unique game mechanics, and having a pet that you feel so attached to that you actually get feelings like you playing this game, you're like, I've turned into an emo kid.
Okay, that's borderline creepy.
Yeah, but that's how well they execute on this game, like immersing you in that experience. Like, we're gonna keep saying immersive. It's immersive because this is kind of theme going on. The Panzer Dragoon Saga, I can't even describe it. It's just amazing. Of course, it's a Sega Saturn game, so the jaggies and the presentation may be hard to look at, but the gameplay is so amazing. My last recommendation, another Sega Saturn game, and an NES game is kind of similar to it, Dragon Force and Double Dragon 3. And what I liked about the innovations in these games is that they have a concept in them that you don't see too often these days. The concept where enemies you encounter can be persuaded or defeated or swayed to join your cause. It's such a neat thing, because sometimes there's enemies, there's arch enemies, there's bosses that you you end up loving because you're like, man, they got charisma. I mean, I know they're the bad guy, but they're
Like
likable.
a lot of Final Fantasy bosses
Yes.
are arc enemies.
Yeah, like Sephiroth. Everybody loves
Yep,
Sephiroth.
Sephiroth is actually the one I was going to.
Yeah. So imagine you defeat Sephiroth in Final Fantasy, and you use the dialogue option that persuades him, and he joins your team. Whoa.
Which time you beat him? First, second, third.
Probably after the umpteenth time, and he finally says, "Fine. You know what?
Well, just kind of give up. Okay,
over.
this is silly. Let's just go have a beer or something.
Yeah, exactly. I just love that whole concept because, and especially now, that's one thing that, like, especially the creative teams and writers, doing the behind these games, I think we have gotten better. And even, like, a lot of shows have finally caught up where there's no longer, like, this cut and dry, this black and white, evil versus, good versus evil versus good. There's a lot of gray areas now, right? Like, you have this whole anti-hero. We talked about this on our last episode of the show, and I think it's really fascinating because what it does is it presents opportunities where you're conflicted because you're like, I know that I shouldn't like this guy, I shouldn't like this girl, I shouldn't like this person, but they're not all bad. They have some redeeming values, and I can understand where they're coming from. And again, with, bringing it back, when you have a story or story elements, characters that are relatable, you have a frame of reference, it grounds the experience so you can jump into it and really get immersed in it. And then after that, anything else that's off the wall is you can suspend your disbelief better because you already had your entry point into it, right? So there's a lot of games that I could talk about. More modern game that I think really turned the tables is Crypto the Necrodancer, just because we thought rhythm games were dead, and then Crypto the Necrodancer came back. It's like, hey,
I've heard of that game, and I looked at it, and I was kind of interested, but I never actually went through with getting it.
Dude, imagine like those old dance offs where people had dance battles back in the days. It's that, but with a dungeon crawler roguelike setting. It's crazy. It doesn't sound like it'd be fun, but it's strangely addicting.
Yeah, I didn't really hear anything about it, so I was a little skeptical of going through with getting it.
It's got a huge cult following, and it's a fun game to stream. I know Michaela would love it. It's something you guys can share together and kind of see how you can complete the daily challenges and how well you could do, how long your runs will last, because typically you'll die pretty quick the first few times. But there is some persistence, there is some progression between your runs, so there's that. It's got kind of
I'm gonna probably have to get some of these games while everything is 67% off.
Oh boy, don't tell me that.
Crypto the Necrodancer is base game.
Well, hey, do you have two separate PCs, right?
Yeah, I have mine and Michaela's.
See if you go. I know people talk about this out there, but I'm gonna say this now. If you get a 4-pack, I'll throw you some of the money. We'll talk about it. Think about it, and we'll talk about it more off air. 4-pack of Dungeon of the Endless. Because then me, you, and Michaela could play it. And by the way, guys, make sure you check out Princess Kitty, aka Michaela, aka Renee _. Actually, it's Renee Bones. Underscores on Twitter. On Twitch, twitch.tv/RENAYE Bones, Renee Bones. Right? Good plug.
Yeah, I think her Twitter is right now though.
Yeah, she keeps changing it. It was like OCD Barbie or some other thing.
Well, yeah, it was OCB, but the clan that was part of is actually no longer a thing, so she changed it.
Well, she's part of the gang now, so she doesn't need them. She don't need those stinky mofos.
Didn't need those guys anyways.
Another game I'm gonna say is more modern, and then we're gonna wrap it up. But I think it's the best shooter that we've had in the last 5 years, just because it's so unique and it requires teamwork. I'm gonna throw it out there. I'm gonna throw this game out there again. Rainbow Six Siege. Love this game. Love it. Rather play in a CS:GO, to be honest. CS:GO not a bad game. It's just you don't get that sense of immediate gratification to tide you over when the challenge is getting harder and harder. You know, like that flow zone is very important. Do you have this, or do you have plans to get it? Because I have it on PC, so you can't say I don't have it. I have it on PC and Xbox One. Choose your.
I don't have any CS:GO or Rainbow Six, any of that on any system. Halo's got CS:GO, I believe.
Yeah, everybody has CS:GO. It's like the
Not
game
even
everyone
me.
has. Yeah, well, there are some free shooters out there like Dirty Bomb and Guns, the Duel 2. Oh, guys, I'm forgetting some. But Rainbow Six Siege is worth every penny. So if you see it on sale, I would consider getting it. I prefer if you play it on Xbox One because it's less competitive on Xbox One. People on the PC side, man, they are hardcore. You cannot go in there with a casual attitude. Good lord. But
Filthy casuals need to get off my game anyway.
So Murray, where can people find you?
What?
Where can people find you? Where can they contact you? Where do you hang out? Where do you spend your time?
My computer? I don't know.
Yeah. By the way, everybody on All Games, thanks for tuning in. Signing off here. If you want to catch the rest of the show, we're on Twitch for a couple minutes more. Plug something. Plug Michaela or something. Why should people visit her stream? Something. Give us some closing thoughts, brother. You're killing me, Smalls.
Didn't sign up for this.
This is part of the deal.
I'll figure that part out later.
Okay. Well, I'm YogiZilla everywhere. Twitter, Steam, Tumblr, Instagram, Facebook, Xbox Live.
I mean, I have one of those. I'm usually Mergalicious, but I don't think I really have like a Twitter or anything yet.
I thought you were Admiral Merg.
Oh wait, yeah, on Twitter, I think so. That's because Mergalicious was taken, and that's me.
That's bad. That's sad that I know your Twitter better than you do.
I don't even. I think I just made it just so I could like sign up and follow Michaela around. I don't have a use for it yet.
That the way you just positioned that makes it sound creepier than it really is. I keep tabs on her.
So you creepy.
By the way, folks, we don't push the affiliate marketing and sponsorships and the crowdfunding stuff as hard as some folks do. But we are a bootstrap operation. A lot of us are putting our own money up to promote our content efforts and our individual and our collective efforts as Geeky Antics, and it costs money. It costs money, and it ain't easy. So we ask that if you like what we're doing, leave us a tip. Consider leaving us a tip. bit.ly/gang tip. And for more details on how you can participate, support the network, you go over to geekyantics.net/donate. Donations and any kind of support are not required, but they are always appreciated. And you know what? I ain't too proud to beg, because being a starving artist is only cool for a little while. And if you want to tweet us, at Geeky Antics, at YogiZilla, and also look for hashtag TWTT. That stands for Time and Wimey Tea Time, if you didn't catch on. All our sponsors can be found at geekyantics.net for our sponsors. And if you want to subscribe to our newsletter, bit.ly/gang mail, and gang is in all caps, GANG. Stands for Geeky Antics Network Global. And with that, I think that's all the plugs. Merg, thanks for jumping in just in time. That's a good conversation. We might have to, if you're interested, in a couple of weeks, you want to pick this conversation back up, do part 2 of it.
Yeah.
All right, so your homework is to look into XCOM and to consider more talking points for, I want to put together like at least some bullet points for the immersion and kind of figuring out, demystifying, I guess you could say, what it is that makes games fun and keeps us playing them. Sounds good?
Sure. Yeah, sounds good.
All right, folks. This is the part where I play the music. Merg, you won't hear it, so it's going to get awkward. But I'll catch you later, right, brother? I think he's playing his game anyway.
Not hear me? You can totally hear me.
No, you're cutting off a little bit for some reason now.
Oh, no, yeah. Yes, you will see me later. I said yup, but it apparently didn't come out quite well.
Yeah, I think your threshold might be too high, so like it's not keying up all the time. So you might have to put the open gate a little bit on the left. But otherwise, yeah. So see you guys in 2 weeks. Or for Gang Night. I think we have a Gang Night tonight. We should be playing something together, so stay tuned for that. That's usually Saturdays after 9 p.m. Eastern-ish. Not every Saturday, but usually. And after our shows and whatnot. That's it. See ya.
We thank you. We thank you for every crumb, biscuit and cake you bring to the table. Because Doctor Who belongs to all of us. What you bring to the timey-wimey tea time in your live chat participation, comments, likes, shares, tweets and voicemail, all of it means the world to us. Love, true love never fails. Do you like it? If you like what we're doing, well, tell us for God's sake. Shout it from the rooftops at geekyantics.net. Or call it in, 206-415-4987. That's 206-415-4987. That's it. Bless you. So long. And thanks for all the fish. Dawn, it won't be that long. Just a wee while. Because the timey-wimey tea time will be back. We'll return next Saturday with fresh insights, questions and epiphanies about Doctor Who. And heck yes, everything geek. Maybe same bat time. Absolutely the same bat channel. Every Saturday.
Tiny Wimey Tea Time.
Me gusta.